Got it.
Well, Ryan Williams made a huge announcement. It's a reclassification, just like we predicted here on Locked On Bama. What does this mean for Alabama going forward?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me, Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, and thank you for making your first listen every single day. By the way, we've surpassed 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we couldn't have done it with at least 8,000 of you. So, one of them is my mom, and one of them is Jimmy's sister. So, other than that, we needed about 8,014 of you, and we appreciate that so much. You guys are great people. We love you so terribly much. It's scary. Jimmy, Ryan Williams has reclassified, the dynamic, unbelievable wide receiver from Saraland who's committed to the University of Alabama, and he's amazing. And he's reclassified. He made a big announcement today, reclassified on Instagram. Just a big pickup now. What I said at the beginning, and I hate it when people say this, what does this mean for Alabama going forward? Well, what else? What does it mean for Alabama going backwards? No, the going forward thing is so dumb and just word salad. I need to take that out of my whole vernacular. But regardless, so Ryan Williams reclassifies. Now, as we were getting ready for this show, which means I was inviting you, we don't do any prep. I started looking at On3 and 24/7 about, okay, now I'm curious, where do you re-rank Ryan Williams in this 2024 class? Silly old Luke thought that he would clearly be a top 5 player, maybe top 3 player. I mean, I think I don't know many players I would want above him, period, in this class. I was a little shocked to see 24/7 has him as the 14th overall player in 2024. And you guys at On3 have him the 15th best player for this class. Now, the one thing about that is I would say, my guess is when all is said and done, they're going to re-rank him, and I bet he ends up at least in the top 10 on both of them. I think right now they just have to go by the numbers that they're given, and there's also the factor of he's going to be a year younger than everybody. That factors in. But I'm telling you right now, I've called a lot of high school football games. I've been around a lot of high school football games with the HSA Radio Network. He would be up there as the best player I've seen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I agree. He's one of the best high school players I've seen, and then factor in that we've only seen him as a junior. I mean, the game he played Friday night, which many of you listening saw, or at least saw the highlights, that was him as a junior. Imagine what he would look like with a whole nother year of physical development playing against high school players next year. It would have been almost comical looking, watching high school players, hopelessly try to get the kid covered and tackled. Here, in terms of where he's ranked, to show how On3 really holds Ryan in high regard. The head of Alabama's rankings, the head of On3's rankings department came to Tuscaloosa and was there in person for the game Friday night, specifically because of this contingency that Ryan was expected to reclassify and he would have to be re-ranked. So the head of On3's rankings was there. And of course it's a very difficult thing to do, and it's so much of it's related to the draft. And by that, I mean, the whole ranking system used at On3 and Rivals and 24/7 is based on the NFL draft, from having 32 5-stars to having 254 stars. It rhymes up with the draft. First rounders, total draft 250. Well, it also affects the rankings. That's why who's going to be the number 1 player in the country? A quarterback, a pass rusher, maybe an offensive tackle, because those are the guys that are taken first in the draft, right? So wide receivers, which generally do get a lot of first-round play, of course, but they're rarely, or if never, the number 1 pick. I don't think a wide receiver has been the number 1 pick since maybe Irving Fryer in 1982 or 3, something like that. I'm not even sure that's right. But I don't think you'll see wide receivers crazy high. And that kid from South Florida is Jonathan Smith, his name. He's going to Ohio State. He is ridiculously good and more prototype in terms of his size.
And I'm seeing now an interview between Andrew Bone and Charles Power talking about Ryan Williams. And they're talking about really how dynamic this particular class of wide receivers is. And it is dynamic. I mean, Micah Hudson, who's going to Texas Tech very strangely, if you ask me. Cam Coleman, who, we all think is fantastic. I mean, he is. He's a really good player. You got Jeremiah Smith, who most people have as the number one receiver.
I just called him Jonathan Smith, but yeah, Jeremiah Smith.
You've got Perry Thompson, who's really good. Bryce Kane, Amari Jefferson, Rico Scott, Malcolm Simmons. I'm naming off guys that maybe aren't quite as known nationally right now, but they are. It's a fantastic class of wide receivers. And then when you factor in that, what I really love about this is Alabama is going to have a great shot to get the number one. What they already have a commitment from what I think is the number one receiver in next year's class, in Jamie French. And so this kind of makes it where Jamie French can be his own dude coming in. So I like that a lot. As I'm getting a phone call, which is just perfect. So you go ahead and take it from there, Jimmy.
Well, Jamie French, what's kind of funny is the reclassification, and we haven't really been through this a lot in terms of this happening before, but it's sort of like funny that today in one fell swoop, Alabama lost its best 2025 commitment, lost it. It's off the board, no longer counts. We no longer have a 5-star in the 25 class. He's gone, but we have added a 5-star commitment to the 2024 class. So it is going to radically change the rankings a little bit whenever you add a 5-star, but it adds to 24, takes away from 25. So that's sort of interesting in terms of recruiting rankings, but that's just fluff to me. The real talk to me is impact on the football field. And we're going to be talking about it here on this show for the next 9 months. And that is, what kind of impact will Ryan Williams have on the football team next fall? I think it's fascinating for any number of reasons. Number one, we know he's immensely talented, but he's young, and he would be showing up with a pretty deep group of players that are proven at this level, that are older kids who are proven. Isaiah Bond, Malik Benson, Jalen Hale, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Emmanuel Henderson, who we haven't seen a lot of yet, but who's a very, very promising player. And, of course, a couple of kids who were redshirted in Cole Adams and Jaron Hamilton. So where is Ryan going to fit in? I'm already right.
He's going to fit in at the number one slot. That's me. I mean, I just couldn't be any higher on this kid. So I understand. I know what you're saying, and what you're saying is absolutely true. I'm going complete fanboy right here. I'm telling you right now, this guy is bananas. I mean, sometimes look, I'll tell you who he reminds me of in terms of the effect he had on me when I watched him play. Now, I only saw this guy play one time because he's from the state of Mississippi, and it was the time I was calling the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. Chris Jones, who ended up at Mississippi State, like he was a 3-star at the time, but he ended up being a 5-star. I remember watching him going, that is the no-brainerest of no-brains I've ever seen in my life. He is so clearly going to be an NFL badass, which is clearly what he is. And I've seen other guys too that I thought, okay, really good, but I could almost pick their game apart from time to time. A DJ Fluker, a Fletcher Cox. I remember seeing Fletcher Cox going, he's awesome, but Chris Jones looks so much better to me. Now, they weren't at the same time, but, again, I'm just telling, Rashaan Evans had a marvelous Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, and I remember thinking, okay, he's going to be a dude, and he was, and he's played a long time in the NFL. He spent a lot of time in the NFL. Good for him. But Chris Jones, Ryan Williams are the two that pop off to me. Maybe DK Metcalf, too. DK Metcalf was probably in that list, and A.J. Brown, frankly. They were on the same Mississippi All-Star team, if you can believe it. But, Jimmy, I need to tell everybody about eBay Motors, and we'll continue to talk about Alabama's class here because I'm so excited now. But I'm excited for eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors does everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and much, much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, or like me, into all of them, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber. You ain't burning cash, crazy. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win, just like you want to. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Yeah, I want to keep it right here and talk a little more Ryan Williams. I'm looking now on the On3 team rankings. It has knocked Alabama up to the number 3 team in the rankings.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, they're right behind. They're barely behind Ohio State and a good almost point and a half behind Georgia. But of course, Georgia has 28 commitments. Alabama has 21. And you've got to think Alabama's still got a shot. Now, I want to ask this just for the heck of it. Does anybody know yet if Perry Thompson even showed up in Tuscaloosa this weekend?
BOL was never able to confirm that. So We're not saying it didn't. We're not saying that did not happen. We're just saying we've not been able to confirm that it did. So
I talked to a friend of mine,
and who knows how that's going to play out.
I talked to a friend of mine down in the Mobile area who's pretty well connected, and his stance was, look, Perry's sticking with Auburn because he really, really, really wants to be sort of the guy coming in. And he really wants to play a lot early. And I think he could play a lot early at Alabama. Now, I think the other side of that is, of course, NIL that could factor in. But, I would love to have Perry Thompson in this class. I really would. I think Perry Thompson is a really good player. I'm totally on board with getting him. Ryan Williams sort of mitigates any angst I had about losing a Cam Coleman who was never really interested in Alabama, or a Perry Thompson or whatever. Ryan Williams, to me, makes up for just about all that. That's how good I think Ryan Williams is.
There's going to be some anxious moments for fans, though, as Ryan has now reclassifying. He's sort of rebooting his recruitment a little bit. Still committed to Alabama. We're still very confident at BOL that he will end up at Alabama, but he may go on multiple official visits between now and when he chooses to sign. I don't know. He may sign next week. That's possible, but he may go take visits and sign in February. That is very possible too. Ryan will not complete his coursework at Saraland until the conclusion of the spring semester. That's understandable, right? I mean, who graduates from high school and accumulates enough credits a whole year and a half early when this wasn't planned until the 11th grade, the end of 11th grade? That's just not enough time to accumulate all the necessary credits. So Ryan won't be, for those wanting to know, he won't be entering Alabama should he follow through with his commitment until next summer or even the fall, but probably the summertime. So he will not be an early entry guy like the bulk of the class. That will also affect him, I think, a little bit. A lot of guys show up later and end up playing. That has happened in the past, but it's just so interesting to see how a player at his age will quickly impact the Alabama lineup. His talent is undeniable. Luke thinks he could even show up wide receiver 1. I don't rule that out by any means, but my prediction is going to be the player that I've compared Ryan Williams to since I first saw Ryan in the 9th grade. My comp goes back that far because that's who he reminded me of right off the bat, is Devontae Smith. And I think he could have a Devontae Smith type freshman year. And by that, I mean, he'll be one of the better players. He'll be in the first team rotation. He's going to catch balls. I don't think he's going to catch as many balls as maybe an Isaiah Bond or one of the older kids. But you know how Devontae, to me, his freshman year is highlighted by the fact he made the game-winning catch against Mississippi State to win the game, and then the game-winning catch in the national championship game to beat Georgia and win a national championship. That's what I think Ryan is definitely capable of, that he will potentially make game-winning plays his freshman season. I just don't think he'll be what you would call a volume pass catcher, meaning, hey, he's the guy that catches 60 balls and leads the team or top two. I just think he's going to be up there in terms of big plays and highlight plays and holy moly, look at that plays, very similar to Devontae Smith's freshman year.
I want to throw this in there too. I misspoke a little earlier. When I was looking at the On3 rankings, that was your composite having him at 15. On3 actually has him at 8. They still have him behind Jeremiah Smith and behind Cam Coleman. Again, I can't speak about Jeremiah Smith much. I've seen some highlights, wonderful, but I haven't seen him play. I think Cam Coleman is awesome. I think Ryan Williams is better. And I think in the end, that will play out, where I think Ryan Williams will eventually be ranked ahead of him. And again, Cam Coleman is fantastic. I'm not a 5-star in my opinion, no doubt about it. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I just think I think that Ryan Williams is just absolutely different. I don't know another way to say it. So he is the number 2 player in the state now, according to On3. And what that does give Alabama the 2-3 players in the state with Ryan Williams and Jalen Mbakwe, and then the 8-6 player in Jeremiah Beeman. And, it's interesting, Kevin Riley sitting there at number 77 national player, the running back out of Tuscaloosa County that's going to Miami. And it just sounds like it's just not going to happen for Alabama with him, which is fine. I mean,
it could. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out either. I think that could be last minute. We'll see. I just know this. Robert Gillespie and I think one other coach, can't remember who, recently, recently in the last few days, visited Kevin Riley at Tuscaloosa County High School. I don't think that would have happened if that door was shut. So I don't think the door is shut. So let's see what happens there. But I'm with Luke in terms of I agree with Luke. Like most likely, let's say that's going to be Miami. But don't Alabama's chances there is not 0.
Yeah, and look, I'm fine even if Alabama doesn't get a running back in this class. I mean, I'm fine with it. You've got you certainly got Daniel Hill still out there, Kevin out there, Kevin Riley out there. You've got Keywan Lacey, who it sounds like that's going to be an Ole Miss thing now, which is fine. And then, of course, the kid Ball, is it committed to Arkansas?
Jaden Ball. I would watch Jaden Ball. Let me tell you, anybody out there that's like, oh, this sounds like a backup plan. Okay, call it a backup plan, but go watch the tape. Go watch the tape of that guy and say, oh, this is a backup plan. He is fantastic. And at 6'1", 215 would be adding some size to that room that I think Alabama needs. But, hey, how does this combination sound? 6'1", 215, biggest kid in the room, maybe the best home run hitter in the room. This guy can dial it up from long distance. Real talented kid. And Arkansas has a history of having good backs over there. Felix Jones, Darren McFadden, Alex Collins, heck, even Rocket Sanders has been a good player over there. But I'm telling you, Jaden Ball, Peyton Hillis, excellent. I would be thrilled if Jaden Ball ends up at Alabama myself.
Okay, I would too. I'm down with it. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other recruiting stuff from the weekend. I know Alabama had some visitors in. They had a Canadian visitor in, which is ironic because the Alabama basketball team was in Canada. So now I want to talk about PrizePicks. Look, what is PrizePicks? It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo with 3-pointers made plus receptions, or Kadarius Toney +1 lining up offsides and ruining one of the best plays of the NFL season, which also happened yesterday for those who don't know. Mobile native Kadarius Toney, by the way. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with that kind of injury insurance. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege, prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. You'll love PrizePicks. Jimmy, I don't know how many people caught what I was saying yesterday, but surely you saw the Kansas City play, right? Where Kadarius Toney,
Yeah, right.
he lined up slightly offsides. And that's the thing. Patrick Mahomes was infuriated. He lined up offsides. They threw the flag immediately. So it didn't matter what happened after that. So it's not like the officials were like, oh, we don't like Kansas City. He was clearly offsides. And I love Kadarius Toney. I wanted to sign him out of high school, but he was clearly offsides. And it sucks because it was a fantastic play. But there's an Alabama tie in there because he is from the Mobile area. But Jimmy, I know that Steve Umba, is that how we say that? The Canadian?
The ongoing joke at BOL is we just refer to him as Steve. Steve! Exclamation point. I don't know that I've Steve. I don't know that I've seen a breakdown of how to say his last name. I think the M is silent.
Okay.
The first M is silent, so I think it's Booma, maybe. But Steve is what we call him, and that's going really well. We'll officially project Steve in the class, and it's a projection. He hasn't announced. He hasn't committed. As a matter of fact, he is not announcing until signing day, December 20th. But I like where Alabama sits, 6'3.5", 274, long arms, has a good chance to develop into that interior pass rusher, high upside guy, a bit of a project, but most of them are, particularly at that position. So, you put him in the weight room, you teach him how to play, you put him on the practice field. I think after about 2 years, you could have an NFL player. I mean, that's what kind of upside he's got.
And so who else out there? I know that Tristan Jernigan was on campus this weekend, the linebacker committed to Texas A&M. Only a 3-star guy. He may get bumped up to a 4-star, just Bama bump if nothing else. But Nick Saban seems to really love him.
Yeah, this past weekend was an interesting trip for him. I think it was a feeling out process for Tristan. It's like, how much does Alabama want me? And for Alabama, it was like, how much do we want this guy? But it seems to have there seems to be a marriage here. Tristan's interview on the site with Andrew Bone, and Hastings and those guys at BOL. He seems very pro Alabama. That's my take of the interviews. He is still committed to Texas A&M and is going to trip to A&M this weekend. So that one is not done, but it does seem that Alabama is a high probability landing spot maybe for inside linebacker Tristan Jernigan. Talented kid, plays the piano. We found out this weekend, played the piano at Nick Saban's house, and it was haunting, I would say, from the 10-second clip that we got here. A good talented piano player on top of everything else. Also watched him play basketball in Saban's court on Instagram Live in the basketball goal outside Saban's house. So Tristan Jernigan, interesting kid, been committed to Texas A&M for a long time. Again, he will trip to A&M this weekend, so we'll see about him. He's not ranked super high, as Luke already told you guys, not ranked crazy high. But, sometimes I look at it this way. Where can a kid go? Well, Alabama or Texas A&M sounds pretty highly ranked to me. It's not like Alabama's having to beat some group of 5 schools. A&M recruits at an extremely high level.
Yeah, they do. And I'm all for it. I mean, again, Saban loves him. And again, now that we got Ryan Williams in this class, I'm sort of like whoever Saban wants from here on out. I mean, honestly, I'm that giddy. I just think he's
I would like to sign it back. I mean, in terms of what's important to me going forward, in terms of where I would like to bring in a back, whether it's Daniel Hill, Kawan Lacey, Kevin Riley, or Jaden Baugh. I think those are the most likely guys. One of them doesn't really matter. I like all of those guys. I like all of those players, to be honest, because this was never going to be a year where Alabama signed a 5-star running back, because all the 5-star running backs are well aware that Alabama signed 2 5-star backs in the last cycle. They know this, and that's why it was never going to be the case. Some people just have to get a little more realistic about how recruiting works at positions. It's different per position, but at running back, they're more likely to agree to do it by committee than the old days, but they still want the ball. They still want to play. And they know that Alabama's got Miller, Haynes, and Young for next year. And it was never going to be a year to sign a 5-star. But you could always sign a solid player at running back because it's Alabama. And Hill, Riley, Ball, Lacey, they're all solid players, to say the least.
Question for you. Does it concern you at all that Ryan Williams' last visit will be to Auburn, apparently?
Yes and no. It's concerning in the sense that, look, if he's committed to Alabama, and I am confident that he is going to stick with Alabama, I am. But at the same time, I mean, I hate that dating analogy because it's been done to death. But hey, if you're pretty sure she's going to say yes to the proposal and you're very confident, it's still going to make you nervous when she's spending the weekend with another dude.
Yeah.
You can be like, I know she loves me. She's going to say yes. Oh, what's she doing this weekend? Oh, spending it with that actor guy. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's going to make you nervous. Should make anyone nervous or concerning, but hey, we're confident at Alabama that he's going to stick with Alabama.
Yeah, and again, I am too. I've never been more confident, but of course, it's a long time between now and then. And look, Jimmy, you said, though, just to be clear, he could sign in December, right? He could.
Yeah, he's eligible now that he's an official class of 2024 guy. So it's just as if he's like any other senior now. So he is free to sign with Alabama next Wednesday. I'm just not sure that's going to be his plan. I think visits might be his plan, and then signing in February. You also don't have to sign at all, which will really make people nervous, but you don't have to. A lot of people don't know that you don't have to, but you don't have to sign a letter of intent. And you're just free to enroll in college whenever you want. So, but no, my guess is February, but he could sign next week and end the suspense. Could happen.
Yeah, I would. Well, if he does that, could he do it in secret and still go on these visits?
No.
Okay.
No, I think you'd be violating rules if he did that. I think once you're signed, you're signed. But no, I think if he's going on the visits, he's unsigned.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, I would certainly rather he not go on the visits, but I certainly get it too if you want to go on the visits. I mean, everybody's probably going to roll out the red carpet. There's going to be, a lot of good-looking women and probably some money out there. So I mean, I'm down for it. Go get it, bro. And a lot of red carpets and a lot of good food and a lot of pat on the backs and attaboys and all that. Go get it, man. I mean, but in the end, just come on home to Tuscaloosa.
I'm very confident / optimistic, but hey, it's recruiting, and part of the fun of recruiting, I know it isn't for some people, but part of the fun of recruiting is the drama. The drama is not over until the name is until the kid is signed, and that may not happen until February. But the good news is, it's not a whole year away. If he'd not reclassed, we would be dealing with this until next December.
Yep. That's crazy. All right, buddy. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.